A glittering mansion, a celebration echoing with laughter, a pregnant woman who vanishes without explanation while champagne flows freely overhead. What the guests sipping wine cannot see is the cruelest truth hidden beneath their feet. A woman locked in darkness, trapped by the very man they're toasting. He believes his wealth can erase witnesses and his power can silence suffering. But he never expects a single quiet act of courage to shatter his perfect illusion when a housekeeper opens a door that should have stayed closed forever. This is a story of cruelty, courage, and the kind of justice that refuses to whisper. Stay with us, because once the truth enters this house, nothing will ever be the same. Tell us where you're watching from and share your thoughts in the comments below. The Montgomery estate glowed like a jewel that evening, every window spilling golden light across manicured lawns. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing reflections on marble floors, while a string quartet filled the grand hall with elegant melodies. Luxury cars lined the circular drive, their polished surfaces catching the glow of strategically placed floodlights. It was Marcus Montgomery's 45th birthday, and everything had been orchestrated to remind the world exactly who he was and what he controlled. Guests moved through the sprawling rooms with practiced ease, men in tailored suits, women in designer gowns that caught the light with every movement. Champagne flowed, toasts were raised, laughter rose and fell like waves against the shore of wealth and influence. At the center of it all stood Marcus himself, tall, composed, commanding. His black suit fit perfectly. His silver watch gleamed each time he raised his glass. His smile never wavered, practiced and confident, suggesting a man whose life contained no disorder, no chaos, no secrets. But one absence hung over the celebration like a shadow no one dared acknowledge. Claire Montgomery, his wife, was nowhere to be seen. More than one guest noticed. Whispers passed between small groups, careful and curious. Women glanced toward the staircase, expecting to see a pregnant figure descend, 7 months along, radiant, glowing. Claire should have been the heart of this celebration, standing proudly beside her husband. Instead, that place was occupied by someone else. Vanessa Cross stood close to Marcus, close enough that her hand brushed his arm when she laughed. Her emerald silk gown clung to her figure with deliberate precision. Her dark hair fell in perfect waves over bare shoulders. To strangers, she looked like a business associate. To those who knew the rumors, she looked like a replacement. A business partner approached Marcus with a polite smile, gesturing lightly with his glass. "Where's Claire this evening? I was hoping to congratulate her." Marcus didn't hesitate. His voice carried practiced calm. "She's not feeling well, doctor's orders, rest and quiet. You know how pregnancy can be." The partner nodded, satisfied. Marcus's eyes, however, hardened for just a fraction of a second after the question passed. The smile returned quickly, but something cold flickered beneath it. Vanessa noticed. She tilted her head and gave him a knowing look, the corner of her mouth lifting. She didn't ask where Claire was. She already understood enough to feel secure. The party pressed on. Servers moved between guests with trays of delicacies. Music swelled. Applause followed another toast. Marcus spoke of success, of loyalty, of the future. His voice carried authority that no one questioned. Yet the staircase remained empty. No footsteps sounded from above. No message arrived explaining Claire's absence. The silence surrounding her grew heavier with each passing minute, though no one dared speak it aloud. At the edge of the hall, large double doors stood closed, their dark wood polished to perfection. Beyond them, corridors led deeper into the estate, into spaces the guests would never see. The basement was silent in a way that felt unnatural, as if the house itself had decided to forget the space existed. The air hung cold and damp, carrying the faint smell of concrete and neglect. A single yellow bulb cast weak, uneven light across bare cement walls. Shadows stretched long and distorted, reaching toward corners the light couldn't touch. Claire Montgomery sat on the cold floor, her back pressed against the wall. Her light blue maternity dress, once soft and carefully chosen, was now wrinkled and smudged with dust. Her hair had fallen loose, strands sticking to her damp skin. One hand rested protectively over her stomach. The other lay limp at her side. From somewhere far above, music drifted downward through layers of stone and wood, faint, distorted, but unmistakable. Laughter followed, then the soft clink of glasses. The sounds were distant yet cruelly clear. There was a party happening directly over her head, a celebration filled with light and warmth, while she sat alone in the dark. Claire moved toward the door she'd been pushed through hours earlier. The heavy metal surface looked different from this side, no handle, only a flat panel and a thick lock mounted outside. She pressed her palm against it, then knocked once, sharply. No response. Her heart began to beat faster. She knocked again, harder this time, calling Marcus's name. Her voice echoed strangely in the enclosed space, bouncing off walls and returning smaller, weaker. Nothing came. She leaned her forehead against the cool metal, trying the door again, pushing, pulling, even though she knew it wouldn't move. The lock held firm. Panic crept slowly into her chest, heavy and suffocating. She stepped back and searched the basement. Shelves lined one wall, filled with boxes and forgotten items. Old furniture sat covered in dusty sheets. A single wooden chair stood in the corner, its legs uneven. None of it offered comfort. Her hand went instinctively to her purse. Gone. The realization struck like a physical blow. Her phone was inside that purse, her keys, everything that connected her to the world outside this room. Claire's breathing quickened as she pressed one hand to her stomach. The baby shifted faintly beneath her palm, a reminder of the life she was carrying, the life depending on her to stay calm. She whispered softly, not sure if she was speaking to herself or to the child inside her. "We're okay. We're going to be okay." Another sound drifted down from above, applause, loud and enthusiastic. Claire flinched. She imagined the scene without wanting to. Marcus standing beneath bright lights, guests smiling. Vanessa beside him, confident and composed. The image burned in her mind, sharpening her fear into something colder, more focused. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a misunderstanding. She had been placed here deliberately. The argument returned to her in fragments, sharp and unwelcome. Only hours earlier, the afternoon light had streamed through tall windows while servants prepared for the celebration. Claire had been standing in the sitting room when she saw the dress bag, deep emerald silk visible through the clear cover. Not hers, not meant for her. When she'd asked whose it was, the answer had been hesitant. For a guest. Claire had waited until Marcus returned. She'd asked him directly. Who was the guest? His irritation had flashed immediately. "It's none of your concern." She'd pressed him, reminded him of the attention the evening would draw, told him she deserved to know who would be standing beside him on his birthday. That's when he'd told her. Vanessa Cross would be attending, not quietly, publicly. The words had landed like a blow. Claire's voice had shaken as she spoke. This was inappropriate. People were watching them. She was his wife. She was pregnant. This would humiliate her. Marcus's patience had snapped. "You're being dramatic," he'd said coldly. "You're weak. You're no longer useful in public settings. Your pregnancy makes you fragile and embarrassing." Each word had cut deeper than the last. Claire had tried to reason with him. She'd lowered her voice, afraid the staff might hear. She'd pleaded with him to reconsider, to think of their child, to think of appearances. Marcus hadn't cared. He'd stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "This evening is about me, not you. You'll stay out of sight. Vanessa understands me in ways you no longer do." The argument had escalated. Claire had raised her voice for the first time, anger breaking through fear. She'd accused him of cruelty, of betrayal. For a moment, Marcus had looked startled, as if he hadn't expected resistance. Then his expression had hardened. "You need to be put somewhere quiet until this is over." Before Claire could react, Marcus had grabbed her arm. His grip had been deliberate, calculated. He'd pulled her toward the hallway leading away from the main rooms. She'd stumbled, trying to keep her balance, her hand protecting her stomach. "Let go," she'd begged. "I'm pregnant." Her words had meant nothing. They'd reached the basement door. Claire had realized too late what he intended. She'd tried to pull away, her heart racing. She'd promised she'd stay out of sight, promised she wouldn't speak to anyone. Marcus had opened the door and shoved her inside. She'd stumbled forward, nearly falling. Before she could turn, the door had slammed shut. The lock had slid into place with a heavy, final sound. His voice had come through the metal, calm and cold. "Stay there until the party's finished. It's for your own good." Then his footsteps had retreated. Rosa Martinez moved quietly through the lower level, pushing her cleaning cart with practiced silence. On nights like this, staff were expected to fade into the background. The party upstairs was loud enough without them. She was checking supplies near the wine storage when she heard it. A faint sound, barely audible over the distant music. Not mechanical, not sharp, soft, uneven, human. Rosa straightened, listening carefully. The sound came again, a weak murmur followed by a breath drawn too fast. Her heart began to race. She moved toward the basement door, her footsteps cautious. The sound came clearer now, strained, as if someone were trying not to be heard. It sounded like crying. Rosa stopped a few feet from the heavy. She'd passed this door countless times without thinking. Tonight it felt different. The air around it felt tense, charged. She leaned closer. A whisper drifted through, so faint she almost missed it. The words were unclear, but the tone was unmistakable. Fear. Rosa's first instinct was to step back. This wasn't her place. The Montgomerys were powerful. If something was happening behind that door, interfering could cost her everything. But the whisper came again, followed by a soft, weak knock. Rosa pressed her ear to the door. A woman's voice, low, strained, exhausted. She thought of Claire Montgomery. Rosa hadn't seen Mrs. Montgomery all evening. That alone was strange. Claire was always kind to staff, always asked their names, always smiled warmly. The memory tightened Rosa's chest. She tested the door handle. Locked. Someone had been placed here. Rosa stepped back, her heart pounding. She glanced down the corridor, empty, quiet, abandoned by the celebration above. She couldn't ignore this. She hurried to the storage cabinet and found the spare keys, her hands trembling as she searched. Every second felt stretched thin. She found the right key. For a moment she hesitated. She imagined Marcus's reaction, imagined losing her job, being blamed, being silenced. Then she heard the sound again, barely there now, a breath, a faint plea. Rosa closed the cabinet and returned to the basement door. Fear still gripped her, but it was no longer enough to stop her. She placed the key in the lock and turned it slowly. The lock gave way with a soft click. Rosa pushed the door open. Cold air rushed out. The weak yellow light flickered, and there on the floor near the far wall was Claire Montgomery, pale, exhausted, her hand wrapped protectively around her stomach. "Oh my God," Rosa whispered. She rushed forward, dropping to her knees beside Claire. "Mrs. Montgomery, can you hear me?" Claire's eyes fluttered open. Confusion, then recognition, then tears. The baby. Claire whispered. "I'm calling for help," Rosa said firmly. "Right now." She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and dialed emergency services. "My name is Rosa Martinez. I'm at the Montgomery estate. There's a pregnant woman locked in the basement. She needs help immediately." The sirens cut through the night like a knife through silk. Inside the grand hall, conversations faltered. Guests turned toward the windows. Blue and red lights pulsed across the glass. The music stopped. Marcus froze, his glass halfway to his lips. The front doors opened. Paramedics entered first, followed by uniformed officers. Their presence shattered the illusion instantly. An officer spoke clearly. "We received a report. A pregnant woman was found locked in the basement." Gasps erupted. Phones appeared. Cameras turned. Moments later, the stretcher appeared, Claire on it, pale and wrapped in blankets, her hand still over her stomach. The crowd recoiled in horror. Marcus stared, his composure shattered. His glass slipped from his hand and shattered against the marble floor. "This is insane," he stammered. "She shouldn't be here like this." An officer stepped forward. "Mr. Montgomery, based on evidence and witness testimony, you're being detained for unlawful confinement. You can't be serious. This is my house." "That's not relevant, sir." The handcuffs closed around his wrists with a sound that echoed through the hall. Cameras flashed, guests whispered. Vanessa stood frozen, her confidence evaporated. The celebration was over. Days later, Claire lay in a hospital bed, monitors beeping steadily. The baby's heartbeat filled the room, strong, persistent, alive. Rosa visited, tears in her eyes. Claire took her hand. "You saved us," Claire whispered. Rosa shook her head. "You survived, that's what matters." Outside, Marcus faced charges. Security footage left no doubt. His empire began to crumble. The truth he'd tried to bury had been brought into the light. Claire rested her hand on her stomach, feeling the steady movement beneath her palm. She had survived. Her child had survived, and slowly, carefully, she began to heal. If this story moved you, please share it. Domestic abuse hides in the wealthiest homes and the poorest. It looks like control. It sounds like isolation, and it thrives in silence. If you or someone you know is suffering, reach out. You are not alone. Organizations like the National Domestic Violence Hotline are there 24/7. To everyone who's ever felt trapped, your voice matters, your life matters, and there are people like Rosa who will open the door when you can't. Hit that like button if you believe in courage. Share this if you believe survivors. Drop a comment telling us your thoughts. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. And remember, you are stronger than you know.